something called the expanded form. You guys that are in my small group with multiplication, we've done this before. It's the rectangle one that we've done before. Okay, so there's a bunch of different ways to multiply problems, and in my group we found out there's a bunch of them out there that we're working on. But I'm going to teach you this one. Okay, so I'll skip ahead here a little bit. We're going to try this one. Okay, now what I would like you to do is draw a rectangle first. It doesn't have to be huge, but it should be big enough that you can write numbers in there. Quiet. Now, here's how you set it up, class. The first number is 52. Now, the 5 stands for what? 50. 50, good. So I put 50 right beside here. And the 2 stands for 2. So I put a 2 down there. So 52 stands for 50 and 2. Now we can do the same thing with decimals now. The 3 stands for 3 what? 3/10. So you see how I put 3/10 above this box? And then the 5 stands for 5 what? 500. So I put 0.05 above the next one. Now, yesterday I taught you how to multiply decimals times a whole number, right? And what we did is we found out that it's just like normal multiplication. We even ignore the decimal point at the beginning, and then at the end we count up decimal spots on where the decimal goes. You're going to do the same thing here. So this method actually is kind of slick. All right, so let's start here. And if you've never done this method before, what you do is you multiply the number on the side times the number above it. So I have 50 times 3/10. Now what I've taught you to do is we're going to ignore that decimal when we're multiplying. So we're going to ignore it. So we're going to pretend that this is actually just 3. So I have 50 on the side and 3 above it. So what's 50 times 3?
150.
Okay, so put 150 in this box. Now, what we learned yesterday is after we get our answer, we have to count up decimal places to see where to put it in our answer. So how far over is the decimal in 3/10? 1 spot. This one, does it have a decimal in its number? No, so that's 0 spots. How many total do we have then? 1. So that means in my answer, I am going to bump it over 1 spot. So it's not 150, it's what? 15. Okay. The next box over says 50 times 500ths. Now remember, we're going to ignore the decimal when we're multiplying. So this is really just 50 times 5. What's 50 times 5?
250.
Good. 250. And after we multiply it, then we're just going to count up decimal spots and see where to put it in my answer. So this one's over how many spots?
2.
2. And then 50 doesn't have 1, so that's 0. So combined, that's 2 spots. So we start at the end of 250 and we bump it over 1, 2 spots. So that would be 2.5 or 2.50. Are you with me? Okay. You'll get faster at this too, by the way, as we do some of these. Now, on the bottom row, I have 2 on the side. And remember, we're going to ignore the decimal for the multiplying. So 2 times what? 3. And that would equal 6. Now, we're going to move the decimal over how many spots on this one? 1. Okay, so it is here. I bump it over. And it's now there. So that would be 0.6 or 6/10. And then the next one is 2 times what? 5. What's 2 times 5?
10.
And how many spots am I going to bump the decimal over on this one?
2.
2. That's right. 1, 2. So it'd be 0.1 or 0.10. Now, in this method, once you've filled up each box, all you do is line up the decimals and we add these guys. Okay, so if I look over here on the side, I got 15.0. Now remember, when we add or subtract, we got to line the decimals up. Then I have 2 and 5/10. If you want to put that extra 0, go ahead, but you don't have to, do you? So I can just put that. 0 and 6/10. And then the last one, wouldn't that be 1/10? Because I don't have to put that extra 0 at the end. It's in the decimal places. Then all I got to do is add them up. Okay, so 5 plus 6 plus 1, what would that equal? 12. And I carry my 1. Decimals go straight down when you add or subtract. Then I have 1 plus 5 plus 2, what would that equal? 8. And then 1 plus nothing. So my answer to 52 times 35 hundredths is 18 and 2/10. Now, every year I get 1 or 2 people that are being very observant, and they're like, Mr. Kurtz, how in the world is that possible? I started with 52, I multiplied by something, and I got a number way less than 52. Does anyone know why? Because normally when you multiply, you get a lot bigger number, don't you? But why don't I here? Why do I get a smaller number? Quincy, what do you think?
You're multiplying by a decimal.
You're multiplying by a decimal, which means it is less than 1 whole, isn't it? If I multiply by something less than 1 whole, my answer is going to get smaller. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Did anybody notice that when you did it? You're like, wait a minute, that's way smaller than 52. That's why. All right, let's try another one. Let's try this guy. Now, it's already set up for you. All we're going to have to do is fill it in and add. So 19, the 1 means 10, the 9 means 9. The 7 here means 7/10, so that's why they put 7/10 there. And the 5 there means 5/100. That's why we put that there. So all it's done is by the place values. And I think you guys did this in 4th grade with just regular numbers, if you remember way back then. Yeah, for some of you it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
10 times.
That's like me. My coach in college used to say, I loved the 3rd grade. It was the 3 best years of my life. Wasn't very smart, kept getting held back. He was funny. All right, so this first box, I have a 10 on the side, 7/10 on top. Remember, we're gonna ignore the decimal when we multiply. So what am I thinking on this one? 7 times,
10.
what would that equal? 70. So put 70 in that box. Now what I have to do is move the decimal. How many spots? 1. So it's not 70, it's 7. Let's look at the other top box. I have 10 on the side. What am I thinking on the top for this one? Come on, guys. 5. So 5 times 10 is? 50. And how many spots am I moving this one over?
2.
Yeah, there's 2 up here, none there, so that's 2. So that's really 0.5. Let's look at the bottom row. I have a 9 on the side. What am I thinking on the top?
7.
So 9 times 7 is
63.
63. And how many spots am I moving that decimal over?
1.
1. So it's 6.3, not 63. And then in the last box, 9 times 5 is
45.
45. And I'm moving the decimal over how many spots?
2.
1, 2. Okay, now once the boxes are filled, all I have to do is add them, and I got to make sure I line my decimals up. So I have 7.0. I have 0.5. If you want to put the extra 0, that's fine. I have 6.3. And I have 0.45. Now, since I have a hundredths in this one, don't I need to put zeros up here?
Yeah.
Get them all the same length. Now we can add them up. 5 plus nothing is 5. 5 plus 3 plus 4 is 12. Carry the 1. Decimal falls straight down. 7 plus 6 plus 1 is
14.
Okay, so my answer of 19 times 75 hundredths is 14 and 25 hundredths. Once again, why is my answer smaller than the number I started with?
You're adding decimals.
No, not adding.
You're adding
Multiplying.
Multiplying decimals, which means you're multiplying by less than 1. All right, let me stop this recorder real quick. And then you guys are going to do a practice one.